Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here on the Delta Report. Now, I'm going to ramble on about something, about the war in Ukraine. A little bit. We see that Russia has just had several attacks from Ukraine deep and within Russian territory. One attack, I think it was within 150 miles of Moscow. That's pretty close. 3 attacks. How did the Ukrainians do it? Some sort of drone, I guess. They must be equipping them for long distance travel. They buzz across the sky and head to their target. That's a long way. 450 miles the thing must have flew for a drone. You know? I don't know how fast they fly. What, about 100 miles an hour or something? So if it's 450, it must have been flying for like 4.5 hours or something. I mean, long distance. I do know some of them are prop driven. I'm just not exactly sure what this one was. Probably prop driven. It's amazing how Ukrainians can do that. But what this issues into is a new part of the war where Ukraine is starting to actually attack actively into Russia. What does that mean, basically? Because, I forecast this war way ahead in advance. I said that Russia's building up to attack Ukraine. Perhaps as much as 6-7 years in advance of it happening. And I was way ahead of everybody else in saying the attack was... But what I thought that they would move in because they're a superpower and take out Ukraine in a matter of a couple months. And then advance into Poland and possibly Romania. Move right through. I thought they would move right through Moldova. And, well, it hasn't worked out that way. Ukraine has put up a fight like I've never seen before. Mainly because with modern technology, they're being supplied by the nations of Earth with modern armaments. And they do have a lot of people live in Ukraine. So you got 40 million people live in Ukraine. And say half of them are men. So you got roughly, say some have left. A lot of people have left Ukraine. But still probably, you got at least probably 10 million men left in Ukraine. And how many of them are capable of fighting? Probably at least half of them. Well, that would be a 5 million man army. And you equip them with the latest tech. You train them using people who are capable of military training, and you've got a very, very powerful army indeed. And this is proven to be the case. The Russians are coming up against a very powerful army created by the West at a great cost. Billions and billions of dollars are being poured in to create this powerful army. And now it's repelling against Russia. They ain't going to stop. And because Russia's a superpower, and because Russia's got nuclear weapons, this puts us in a dire situation indeed. Where Russia might feel like she's being backed into a corner. And she has nuclear warheads aimed at the West. Of course, we have, in the West here, we have nuclear warheads aimed at Russia. But this is someplace we don't want to go. But on the other side of this coin is someplace that the leaders of the earth would like to drag the people of the earth into. Let's face it. It doesn't matter what country you're from. If your country has nuclear weapons, did they ask you, when they used your tax-paying dollars to build those weapons, did they ask you first? Did they say, put a petition out to the people? Do you want to build nuclear weapons? I don't remember a petition to the people or a referendum or whatever in the heck they want to call it, or get us to vote on it. They just did it. Now they got the red button. And are they going to ask all the people first before they push the red button? But what's really ironic in all this is it was your tax-paying dollars that was used to produce these weapons in the first place, and they decide how to use them. And I call them boomerang weapons because if you launch them, a few hours later they come back. Not the exact ones that you launched. So at any rate, this is not a good scene that's going on over in Ukraine, and what we're seeing is this escalation now where the Ukraine is fighting back against Russia. And where is this actually going in the end? I mean, Russia's already launched some submarines that have a missile on board. It's called a doomsday weapon. It's called the Poseidon. And this weapon, it creeps along the seafloor of the ocean. And it can creep out there along the seafloor for like a year, 2 years, with its target in mind. It creeps into its target offshore, deep underneath the water where it can't be seen, and then it blows up. And it creates a mountain of radioactive water that washes inland over a city. It's called the Poseidon. I think it's like, it's a great big thing. It's launched from a submarine, and the Russian submarines are absolutely enormous. And they've got their submarines in the ocean right now. Impossible to find them because they're so deep underneath the water. But the U.S. subs are the same way. Impossible to find them, and they're roaming around out there, and they've got thermonuclear warheads on board too. Then the Russians also have other systems in place. They got weapon systems that can fly at many times the speed of sound, very low. These are called hypersonic weapon systems. Can devastate a city. You just don't even know what's coming. There's just a flash and everything's burnt. These are the kind of weapon systems they have out there. And we're living in a very terrifying age right now. And this war in Ukraine is a flashpoint. The war in Ukraine needs to be ended. And how does it come to an end? Well, Russia was going to be wanting security guarantees. They're possibly going to be wanting to keep the lands that they annexed. Ukraine is not willing to let them keep the lands that they've annexed. This whole thing is just a nightmare for continuation until the sides decide they want to sit at the bargaining table. And I don't think right now they're even thinking about that. It's a dire situation, and maybe it's not as bad as it was back during the Cold War when Russia had, like, I think it was 60,000 nuclear weapons. Now they got like 6,000. So it's only a tenth. The nuclear disarmament treaties that they had established, they got rid of an awful lot of the nuclear weapons. But still, even a tenth of what they used to have is still too many. One is too many if it's coming down on your city or where you live. The people are ill prepared. During the Cold War, people were better prepared. They had bunkers in their yards. Now that's all overgrown. They've let their bunkers go to pot. A few people do still have bunkers, but not near what they used to be, and they're not prepared. They don't get any courses on it or anything. We laughed at the courses that they used to give the kids, like in school, where they showed them how to flash and duck underneath their desk or whatever if there's a flash. Now none of that's taught. They think the Cold War's over. They think everything's good now. But now we're in more danger right now than we've ever been before. And people they got their heads in the sand to this danger. And this danger is going to get worse in the upcoming months as Russia gets more and more pegged in against the wall, pushed up against the wall. From internally as well. Because, think about it really. All these Russian soldiers going in there and their families at home are going to have to be told at a certain point, hey, you know, your son's dead. It's going to have an impact at a certain point. And, you know, Putin, he met with the mothers of the soldiers and stuff. This is only going to get, situation for them is going to get harder and harder to explain away what they're doing as just a... And at the same time, Ukraine is seeing, might be looking at, thinking, hey, we can win this thing. And Russia's thinking, hey, maybe we can still win this thing. And the winter offensive, that's what they're thinking about right now, both sides. And they're thinking of how they can win against each other. They're not really thinking about peace, not right now. Bad situation. How the world gets out of it, I don't know for sure. But this is possibly the worst situation I've ever seen, leading us toward the unthinkable. But most people got their head in the sand and say, that'll never happen. I'm going to tell you what, I've done quite a few shows on this quite recently where I talked about, hey, we could actually have what I call a human stampede, a worldwide human stampede. What would motivate this stampede would be fear. And this stampede would be caused when the first nuclear weapon goes off. Because then it moves in the realm of possibilities where some people say, oh, that'll never happen, and other people say, oh, it could, but... And it's like, will it? Who knows? To, hey, it just happened. Then a gut-wrenching fear will take over all of mankind. And then they'll be willing to say, hey, what are we going to do? And fear is a great motivator. To what? I call it a stampede. But just like, picture it in your mind like a herd of cows, and all of a sudden a gunshot goes off. The gunshot creates a stampede, the fear, and then the cows all start to run in one direction or the other. And humanity can actually have a similar function or a similar reaction to a nuclear weapon going off, because we've been taught all our lives to fear that in eventuality where the whole world could blow up in a nuclear holocaust. And so because of that fear, it could cause what I call a human stampede. And gosh knows when mankind starts to react that way, just exactly how they would react. They could possibly turn on their own establishment in fear. They could, I just don't know exactly what they would do, but they're going to be like, just like the cows run, that's the reaction, is to run. With the people of Earth, there's going to be an equal reaction to this fear if a nuclear weapon goes off. It might not be to run, it might be to wet themselves. I just don't know exactly, but I do know there's going to be a big reaction. Anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit about this war. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.